G'day guys, back with the Outer Circle. In this episode of Getting Started in the Horus Heresy, it's the part 3 for the Salamanders. Now, I did mention when I recorded the Ultramarines episode, this was going to be painful, because I play Salamanders, and Games Workshop has managed to write 4 bad Salamanders characters. And you go, hang on a minute, there's only 3 characters in the Primarch. That's right. The Primarch is bad. Let's get into it. So, Cassian Dracos Reborn, a super dreadnought, one of a kind. He had his chassis primarily made by the Primarch's own hand. In previous editions of the game, 40k and in 30k, because that dreadnought body survives into 40k, it was armor 14. Armor 14, of course, is the toughest armor in the game. And when dreadnoughts gained strength and toughness, they decided that armor 14 translated naturally to toughness 6. But an armored 13 frontal armor dreadnought, like a Contemptor, translated to toughness 7. So you can see where I'm going with this. He has okay weapons. They had to FAQ him because they didn't get the weapons right on the model. Could only fire like a single melter gun per turn. And he is easy. You can instant death him, basically. It's going to do 3 wounds instead of instant death, and he's only got 6 wounds off the top of my head. So, yeah, he sucks. Lord Chaplain Nomus Raitan. Well, actually, just take a step back on the Cassian Dracos. He sucks because he's 100 plus points too expensive for what he actually brings to the table. You could bring in Contemptor Talon, or you could bring a very specifically kitted out box dreadnought. I know which I would spend my points on, because you shouldn't have a 310 point model that's this bad anyway. Lord Chaplain Nomus Raitan, so a Praetor, who is also essentially the head chaplain of the Legion. He's the guy who's left in charge of the Legion while Vulcan's not around. And to demonstrate this, well, he was weapon skill 4. I think they buffed that up to 5 with the changes in the latest FAQ. He's awful, absolutely awful, and incredibly expensive as well as that. His melee weapon, for example, it's a strength plus 2 AP 2 hammer, and it's unwieldy. Well, a regular Praetor would get a Thunder Hammer. It'll be double strength, AP 2, and it'll do Brutal 2. So this guy not only you can't pair it with another weapon. It's two-handed, so that's it. You're flat out stuck with his base attacks is what you get. And his weapon skill is lower than other characters. He was weapon skill 4 for crying out loud in the original release. So, needless to say, for the better part of 200 points, don't do it. You have so much to live for. Then we get to Xiphus Jur, who's the best of the 3 special characters, and that is not saying much. He's a terrible Psyker, counts as leadership 7 when he casts, which is awful, because it's so easy to blow yourself up with bad psychic powers. His weaponry is crap. He can't do damage with his weaponry. Mastercrafted Power Maul with Blind is in this game, in this day and age. The amount of AP2 at initiative that's out there, or double strength brutal attacks that are out there, the sort of things you run your characters into are the things that you can't deal with squad sergeant level weapons, and a Power Maul is a squad sergeant level weapon. The only thing that is going for all these Salamanders characters is a decent amount of survivability, but Xiphus Jur has less survivability than someone like Alexis Pollux, so take your pick of who you take. It's just avoid all of the Salamander special characters. Until they get completely rewritten by a person who is competent, avoid them. Then we get to the Primarch, and oh boy does do the problems keep on stacking up here. So, someone like Ferrus Manus, for example, has basically identical survivability to Vulcan. In fact, one could almost say that he's slightly superior to Vulcan, because Vulcan is going to have the ability to reroll failed armor saves against Flame and Volkite weapons, and Ferrus, meanwhile, is going to be -1 strength to all shooting against him. Well, I know which one of those is more helpful. Also, Vulcan's reroll failed armor saves. That affects flame and Volkite weapons, yes, but it's failed armor saves, not invul saves. Whereas most of those weapons you're going to want to stop are going to be things like melter weapons, which you don't really have much defense against. Not very helpful, beyond the Legion trait anyway. He has Initiative 5, which is terrible for a Primarch. He will strike at initiative with his hammer, but his hammer, even though it's meant to be like this insane super hammer, forged by this blacksmith Primarch, who's the ultimate smith Primarch, or at least one of, Strength 10, AP 1, Instant Death, Armor Vein, two-handed, Mastercraft. That hammer that he's holding in one hand is a two-handed hammer. Okay, sure, why not? But it's not brutal. Well, Ferrus Manus's is brutal 3. So whilst Vulcan's hammer is hitting you at strength 10, Ferrus is hitting you at strength 12. Ferrus's is also an initiative, and he's a higher initiative, and when Ferrus lands a wound on you, you're copping 3. When Vulcan lands a wound on you, you're copping 1. Which do you think is more terrifying? It's Ferrus's hammer. Forgebreaker is by far the better hammer here. The old Vulcan had this ability in 1.0 that he could just slam the hammer on the ground, and it was placed a small blast template, and it basically hit everyone into that small blast template. Pretty cool, right? 2.0, none of that. So you can just tarp hit this motherfucker. I don't know why people think it's a good weapon. It's not. Not when you compare it to other Primarch weapons. And really, I think you have to. You can't compare them to other units in the game. You can't compare him to a Praetor, for example, with a Paragon blade. That's not fair. You have to look at the competition. The competition is Primarchs. And other Primarchs are so much better. Like, even when it comes to Terminator killing, Ferrus is better, because Ferrus is landing 3 wounds on a Terminator when he hits him with his hammer. Ferrus also has the ability to use his servo harness and all the weapons on it. Well, what weapons does Vulcan bring to the table? Well, he's got a Dragon's Breath Heavy Flamer. Well, we've established Heavy Flamer's awful in this edition, but Ferrus has a Heavy Flamer, okay? So that cancels out. And he's got a pistol called the Furnace's Heat. So it's Strength 7, AP2 Lance, Shock Pulse, and Burst D6. So every time you hit, it causes like D6 hits. Yeah, handy, short range, short-ish range, 18 inches. I actually think he's better shooting, funny enough, with that weapon than he is fighting in close combat. He has 6 attacks, which is not terrible, but I don't know. He's no Ferrus, and that's really what it comes down to. For the points you're paying, 465 points, and the fact that he just doesn't bring that many benefits or buffs to your army, it's just not great. Like, he grants Stubborn to the army, that's something, but you can take the Warlord trait, which Prometheum will Warlord trait, which is going to give everyone buffs against fear and pinning. I'll probably just take that. Yeah, I don't like Vulcan as written currently. He's in a bad place. He's not in the worst place of Primarchs, but he's in a bad place. He should not be doing... the hammer should be roughly on par with Forgebreaker. It doesn't have to be identical, but Brutal 2 would be a game changer for him. It really would. He just doesn't have the damage output, and he doesn't even have the survivability. Like, Toughness 7, only 6 wounds. That's very much just slightly above average toughness and survivability on a Primarch. Not really befitting for a guy that's supposed to be a perpetual. Anyway, that's it for the Salamanders. That was painful, but Raven Guard is going to be even more painful to get through. So let's do that, and then we'll be on to the traders.